We're leaving Horse Moon, going into Goat. Calling Scott, getting right to it. Get on the site, take some courses. I suggest the posture pack, the mindfulness stuff. Again, it's the remedy to your fears. I haven't met one person yet that hasn't benefited from this course. Situational mindfulness. I haven't met one person that hasn't loved the posture pack. And then we get into the conditioning, bodyweight conditioning, Silk Road conditioning. Check those out, or just sign up for the premium membership. I'm about to start an accountability program. You guys stay tuned. This is Total BS Wellness. If you're not showing up and you're not practicing, it's all BS. It actually stands for Total Balancing Sequence. What are the two things that create most people's pain? It's imbalance and it's fixation. That's why I created Total BS Wellness. Total Balancing Sequence. Always work to seek balance, and then always work to expand so you don't become fixated, your mind, body, spirit. So let's get started. This is Scott Shannon.
You hear me?
Yeah, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
How's your day going, man?
It's going all right.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
Ooh.
There we go. Yeah.
Well,
Hey, man.
I'm just coming off a big old trip. That was fun. That was
Yeah.
really fun. Got to spend a lot of time in the dirt.
Yeah.
I got to see how I need to stop cutting people slack. My ignorance is runs deep. It's really nice. So I'm always telling people, I'm always really self-conscious about teaching a lot of this stuff because I'm like, everyone already knows this. But when I started working in this clinic and just working with people on posture and breathing and like mindfulness and over their overwhelming fear, I just realized like, oh wow, everyone just like loving the courses. So it's really nice. But fundamentals, right? It's all
That's
about
good. Yeah.
We're way too beyond desiring the fundamentals right now. Everyone's like, why would I want the fundamentals when I could get this sparkle thing that gives me sparkles and it shoots fire and sparkle fire. And
Fire is fundamental.
yeah. My bliss. Yeah. Okay, let's get to it, man. We're leaving something and we're going into something. What are we leaving and what are we going into?
The moon itself is the sixth moon, which is the goat moon.
Goat.
And in this particular case, we're going from the wood horse to a wood goat.
Okay.
So the elemental configuration is actually, there can be some complication there. This goat moon is actually in the diametric of the year, which is the ox. Mm-hmm. So there can be some tension there, but I suspect that the tension itself would be mostly only kind of exacerbating the tension that we may have with convention in general, right?
Okay.
So like if people are just like not so happy with how convention works in this country, this might be the beginning of a sort of a disgruntled process. Mm-hmm. Whereby they might have some things to say about it. It's the hallmark of our culture in particular to actually try to throw shade on pretty much every convention.
Right.
And some of that is really good because it's a revolutionary process that, eventually shines light on, inequities and injustice and the way things aren't inclusive. Highlighting the way things aren't inclusive is generally what we do best. While also paying lip service to how to be inclusive, right, at the same time. So there's a bit of trickery that we have in this particular culture that I think comes from being a fire monkey country. To have our cake and eat it too. So a fire monkey country, not necessarily so comfortable in the age of, or in a time where convention and rule following, which is basically that's the tone of the earth of any ox year is rule following and convention, the weight of history. We like those things in kind of a sensational aspect, but when it comes to having a boot in your neck, everybody's against it, right? So the power structures as they are don't really get moved too much in an ox year. They stay pretty much the same or exacerbate. And so in this particular moon, there might be a little bit of that kind of more highlighting the kind of disgruntled process or how unjust or unfair that sort of thing is. But in general, the sixth moon going from basically the sixth moon is a transition time. And the reason why I say it's the hardest to convey is because it is a time from the Taoist perspective, which remember is like a mostly um, a Taoist slash Confucian sort of document, right? So there are values inherent within the Tongshu that speak to fairness, equality, that kind of from a Confucian model, right?
Hmm.
So equanimity, harmony. It's like what harmony is essentially the goal um, of the sixth moon. And the reason why it's a goal is because it's basically as we step into a place of harmony with ourselves, between each other, we're actually, that is our, from the Confucian sort of cosmology, that's the way that we're participating with the abundance and the fullness that is provided by heaven and earth. So it's at all times, humans are in equal partnership with heaven and earth. One is not stronger than the other. We're all in this sort of equal partnership. But it's really our behavior and the way we show up, the way we contribute, that actually determine what it is that we receive from heaven and earth during the spring and summer. The sixth moon is the transition moon. It's the earth moon. It's actually very important. Each one of the four earth moons in the year are very important pivots that recalibrate or reconfigure the annual chi. It's basically kind of a, you remember when you used to have a bill due and they gave you a grace period, to actually
Yeah,
pay it, like so this is a grace
I wouldn't know
period.
that.
This is,
I wouldn't.
yeah, you never
My
paid
bills are
them.
paid.
All my bills are paid.
Yeah, or the
But
grace
this is our
period is
great,
being on the run.
right. So this is our grace period right now. The sixth moon is the grace period because yang is already peaked. It's on the decline. There's still growth, but it's really about how we conduct ourselves. If we establish a chain of command, if we were sincere about our relationships, the way we engage one another really, really matters in the sixth moon because it's basically going to determine if there's any growth yet available for us or if everything crashes and burns
Hmm.
because yang qi is on the decline and so our behavior is that much more important. So it can be a really glorious time because we're still taking advantage of this grace period by showing up in grace, right? If we show up in grace and we show up in cooperation, we show up in fairness, we show up with a thirst or an appetite for harmony,
Yeah.
and for social cohesion. But we're going from how we commit to a collective purpose. And if we can commit to a collective purpose, then we get to ride this wave a little bit longer, and we get to prepare to step down. This is if we're using the sort of analogies of Yang Qi was the prince, and now it's been ruling, So this is where it begins to step down in its rulership. By the end of this moon, we're preparing for autumn, So it's about scaling back. It's about budgeting. It's about not expending all your chi on some frivolous thing, that in summertime you can afford to do because you're like diversity of all these different things you're interested in. But when you get to the autumn period, you really have to pick and choose. You have to decide, oh, this is not really worthy of my attention, or I can shelve that till next year. Like I need to budget. I need to economize, right?
Mm.
That's the idea of living seasonally. I can't live like it's summer all year long. Otherwise, I feel the impact of that in my body, in my health, in my actual fortunes, because my attention's too split, right? So this is a really strong time. And the sixth moon is it can be a really graceful, beautiful time if you have your social cohesion, if you know who you're working with, why you're working with them, if everybody knows their role, chain of command, and they're sincere about it, then it can be like a really cooperative time where everybody's like pulling in the same direction. It can be really beautiful. And, if we're not doing that, or if we're kind of questioning constantly, or like not really being sincere in relationships, everything can like fall apart like dramatically. So it's a good to check on that. Like, where's your sincerity, in the process?
It brings to mind that phrase, provide sanctuary, right? And you were talking about inside
Or
freedom,
refuge.
and when it comes to
Hmm.
inclusivity.
Mm.
Um, I've noticed there's a big difference. There's a cultural gap, I think, or a generational gap, where some people a long time ago it'd be like you walk in and then you include yourself by being polite, adding value. But now we have a culture where it's like I'm I fire hoop, and I know right now we're in this thing, but we're in a small living room. But I need a fire hoop and practice my trumpet right now. That's my truth. And it's kind of like that's an easy way to. I think we've misinterpreted the whole idea of like just because you feel that your best life is dancing like no one's watching. Maybe right now is not the like I used to have an old teacher. He'd be like, life is timing. Like to be included,
Yeah.
you should have the right timing and cohesion with the space that you're in. So provide sanctuary
Right.
for all those. Yeah. So
Yeah.
um,
I mean, read the room, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Read the room.
yeah.
Starts with reading the room. This is why it's kind of not always the easiest moon to explain, or I find it's not so much the easiest moon to
Mm,
explain or to find meaning or purpose in it. Because, I mean, I know that, I mean, everybody that I know and that and we talk about this together, is this notion of community. And like,
hmm.
what does that really mean? And
Yeah,
like, it's a word that people really like to use, I think, to, have a sense of at least a feeling of temporary connection with one another. And I think that's to be able to go beyond that is kind of like the sensationalism of revelation, but what Ming
hmm,
would talk about, like revelation porn, right?
hmm,
That we're kind of constantly pursuing the sensation of revelation, but it's never quite good enough and it doesn't generate anything,
yeah,
so you keep needing to go back to that
yeah,
place. I think community can actually be seen in that same light, it's
yeah,
like, oh, I've got these friends and I've got those friends, and like these are the people that I really, feel and bond and connect with. And it's not to necessarily minimize those experiences. They are what they are, and they provide what they provide, but like, don't necessarily, if you want it to be more than that, there's a level of investment. There's a level of consideration, conscientiousness that comes along with that, that's actually established through time, obviously,
yeah.
and through shared experiences. And I think those are some of the things that are being really highlighted, going into the sixth moon, because, at the height of summer, you could just ride the wave of yang and like put your energy into it and create things and push, push, push. It could be more individual, but there's a very limited time during the year where that's really possible. If that, even maybe not the entire time, it's just like it's really limited. Like true success from a Confucian standpoint and from the Tongshu, um, is always communal. The achievements of any one individual are minuscule compared to what a group of people can do. Um, and so that kind of that capacity for cohesion, at a very real, tangible, daily sort of experience, I think is something that we, as a culture, really have trouble reconnecting with. Especially if it like impinges on, you living your truth, or like just finding a way to cooperate and look for commonality rather than, a place where your truth can thrive and other people see and witness your truth and support it. That's like one part of community, you
Hmm.
know, just one. There's all these other slices of where, the witnessing that you enjoy is also reciprocated, and going to that place of reciprocity in life in general, like how we participate together and what we participate for. What is our collective purpose? What is our common goal? Um, so these are excellent elements for reflection, but they're necessary in this sixth moon if we want anything to actually continue. And I think that's kind of the point.
Okay, all that condensed down in 10 seconds. What does it go?
Yeah. Like a 10-second pitch.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm in an elevator,
think about,
and if you don't sum it
yeah.
up, I'm gonna start fire hooping and playing my bugle.
Okay. Okay. I
Playing,
got it. I got it.
yeah,
I got it.
yeah.
Think about your mom. Think about your grandmothers and how they relentlessly and even ruthlessly supported all the kids, no matter what they were doing. They made sure that they were fed. Um, you don't have to be over the top grandma to find places like that in your life. But wherever those places exist, those are the places you really want to put your attention to, and everything else they'll be attracted to that. They'll be attracted because there's an enormous amount of gravity that comes from that kind of heartfelt commitment, like selfless kind of commitment. It's really profound, and the people that need it will come to it. So you don't have to feel like you're missing out by devoting yourself to the one or two or three things that really move you and that we share together, in this commonality. Don't think about the things that are outside of that. Think about the things just right there,
Okay,
and everything else will
that
fall.
reminds
Everything
me.
else will fall in place.
Okay, that reminds me of. I remember when I was a kid, I was talking to this old dude at this jazz thing, and he was like, one word definition of love was to him was sacrifice, and one word definition of soul was experience, and he just kind of. And then I remember talking to someone about like children and adults, right? And we've talked about this a lot. It's kind of like I remember a buddy of mine. We were sitting around talking, and we had a lot of friends that were talking about how it was important for them to express their freedom. Like, say they wanted to go to Burning Man, and they're like, I just need to be free. I need to go to Burning Man. But his whole staff, he had this business, and everyone in the staff just needed to leave for Burning Man, right? And none of them was willing to sacrifice Burning Man for this job that pays their rent. And so he was stuck, and that's kind of what I tell people all the time. That's the difference between a parent and a child. Like a parent, the child can be out there playing, and the child can be out there, running around and going to college and all this stuff, because there's a parent at home often making the food and paying the bills and all this other stuff. So this is really important, I think, for us to at least say thanks to the people that have stayed in, because people are like, well, those people aren't free. And it's like, actually, no, they are, because you're not free, because you need all of these scripted events in order to, it's like you need travel, you need all, you're like, but what is the other side of freedom of contentment and being at home and understanding that, and I'm saying this meaning like I'm out there about ready to start traveling a lot, but I wanted to be able to hold down a place for a while and find that ground again before I left again. It was, very important.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it brings up a lot, like, and I think about some of like Lauga's teachings about freedom, and using that word. That word doesn't mean maybe what you think it means.
Yeah.
If you're using freedom in the definition of freedom to be do whatever I want when I want.
Yeah. That's an easy way to create enemies a lot of times. Yeah.
And, when you think about like live my truth, that's a bastardization of that word.
Yeah.
It's really like your truth, the first teacher I ever had taught me that like truth links together. Mm-hmm. That's the purpose of truth, is to link together. Yeah. So if you're using, your truth to like separate yourself from other people, you're just being selfish. It's pretty much. And maybe that's required. Maybe that's even necessary for a time to explore one's selfishness to the point where selfishness turns into self-interest and awareness of self-interest, so that it can actually, work its way back around to a place of compassion, and that you understand that the things that you're most self-interested in are the things that everybody has, and like that's what the things that really draw us together are the things that we have most in common, are the truest things about us, really, not the things that actually make you stand out in a crowd. That's more of an exception. That's actually not the thing that actually binds you to other people. The thing that binds you to other people are the things that you share. And so in this particular moon, it's really important to really focus on those things and actually give your attention to those things. Individuation and, celebrations in place for that. Actually, there's times for that there's a time for everything, as I would say, like So you can think about that, and then when the work is done, after the work is over, like then there'll be more leisure. There's more space for one to kind of explore their own individuality. But from a seasonal standpoint, it's more like, actually, no, this is the time where you really want to link arms, and work together. The whole teamwork makes the dream work kind of thing. Like, this is the time you really want to do that. You don't want to take off right now. You really want to bind together, because the kinds of things that you're establishing now are the body of abundance that allows you, that you then edit through the autumn and store, and put away, so that you have something to survive on during the winter, right? These are kinds of bonds of trust that we formed in the second moon, in the rabbit moon. We talk about who do we really want to link up with? Who do we want to spend time with? Who do we want to work together with? Like, these are the times where there's a fruition of that. And there's a natural order we should already be feeling it from the fifth moon. If our fifth moon was successful at all, it's because we have these sort of places of natural order between us. And we shouldn't run away from those things now. We need those things. And we should really support those places and encourage the harmony, and even beautify, like, make it beautiful, make it harmonious, between us, like how things are actually flowing. And if we do that, then we get to ride the growth a little longer. But if we don't do that, things are liable to fall apart pretty quickly. That's the risk.
Buried or married?
Buried.
Who's
buried? Wow.
Who's done? Who's just going to have a crap month? Who's 100% no ifs, ands, buts? They're like, we gotta look out for them.
You want to support your roosters this month. This might be a difficult time for them, mostly because they tend to work solo, and they might kind of get pretty overwhelmed, and don't feel like they're supported enough in the kinds of things they do. But any of the ones in terms of married are the ones that do well. Any of the domestics, anybody prone to the domestics, like a dog, a pig, goats, this would be their best moon of the year, where they actually have they feel their community, like supporting them a lot more. And so I'd say use this time well, enjoy it, and also, solidify those bonds to guide you through the rest of the year. And rabbits, same, very much the same. Rabbits right now in the cycle of what's happening for them, this is the time where rabbits kind of peak out. And this is the beginning time for rabbits to start reclaiming their power, and lost a lot of it, early this year, and then last year was difficult for most rabbits. But this is the beginning stages. Don't get ahead of yourself, because the next 2 moons after this are gonna be a little rough. But like, this moon is a kind of beginning stages of like reclaiming their community, their sense of authority within a community, in a kind of like a friendly kind of way. This is a time when they start sticking their heads up, and then that'll hopefully parlay into next year when they can really start reclaiming their power. And then pigs, dogs do better. And then monkeys should be still pretty low key. Like the next moon, they're going to get super activated naturally, because it goes into their monkey moon. So I would say best, roosters and monkeys don't get ahead of themselves. Same thing with horses. They probably experience a little bit more freedom last moon. That will continue this moon, but again, it's about the team that's around you, not individual action anymore. That would be pretty important for both horses and tigers. And snakes, snakes would take a low key. Also, dragons, in the similar sense of what we talked about last moon, is like, shouldn't necessarily expect too much of them. This might be a time when they're more likely to kind of disappear for a minute, or maybe make occasional appearances and drop a little wisdom here and there. But like, it's much more, sixth moon and goat chi is much more collaborative and collaboration isn't necessarily a dragon's strong suit. And so if they already have people they're working with, they can just kind of continue doing their own thing, or this might be a good time for them to check out for a little while.
I think.
And here and there, similar to last moon. They
Yeah.
may have, depending on the element of the dragon, they may have some critiques about collaboration itself, so that's going to make them kind of reactive and split the scene. That's totally natural.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm personally, as a dragon,
Hmm.
I'm pretty right now. I'm just like,
Hmm.
yeah. I was holding too
Yeah.
much space, holding way too much space, and um, it's kind of starting to make me pretty depleted because it's kind of like the thing is a metaphor. Like I was on a vine swinging for 10 years, and now I'm like
Hmm.
jumping to another vine, and it's
Right.
like I don't know if it's strong. You know what I mean? And so it's just kind of like I need to kind of have my focus and my wits about me. But the other thing about it is like the idea of change. Change is one thing, but like I know personally I've gone through like almost a complete transformation in certain ways. Like
Hmm.
there's just
Hmm.
it's kind of like if you would have known me 20 years ago, I'm definitely not even close to the same person that I am now. And even at the beginning of COVID,
Yeah,
we've known each
we
other a
knew
long
each
time.
other for a long, long time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we've known each other for about 20 years, probably 20 years. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's a very different time for
we've
both.
both transformed a lot, and I'm kind of going through one of those now. So it's like, yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
It's there's a collaboration in my future somewhere, somehow,
Hmm.
some group, but right now I actually need to be able to pull back and just kind of let the dust settle on what I just what just happened. Like the open mat
Yeah.
is kind of done.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
Total
Hmm.
BS is just starting. So, and then it just so many new people are coming on, and I don't think we have the discipline to not get thrown back into lockdown again. So, I know we want to come together, but I would talk to people. I'm telling people all the time: use discipline, use patience, and
Hmm.
that revelation porn and that like, no, I need a catharsis. I'm going to Burning Man no matter what. You know what I mean? I know there's a storm coming, but like I gotta go. I have
Hmm.
to dance like no one's watching. That's my truth.
Hmm.
And
Hmm. Hmm.
I warn people all the time. There's no truth according to you. The idea is, hopefully, your truth lines up with the truth, and then life's not going to be. I like that idea of truth is something that we can all share, right? That's
Hmm.
finally a place we
Hmm.
can come together on. Is that And then there's what fills your soul, and hopefully
Yeah.
things hold space for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've often said that human beings don't discover truth as much as they participate in the generation of meaning,
Yeah.
and like we
Yeah.
generate meaning as
Yeah.
naturally as the kinds of species on this planet that we
Hmm.
are. That's our one thing. We really like to generate meaning, like
Yeah.
obsessively, from the so-called dawn of humanity, and the evidence of that. Most of that evidence has been meaning-making activities, the
Hmm.
art, all those things we're obsessive with it. And this system, like all the other astrological systems, are no different. This is a meaning-making activity, that we're participating in, that is a dialogue with nature. That's essentially, one of the major purposes of the Tongshu or any
Yeah.
sort of calendrical astrology is this kind of interactive experience with ourselves and the world around us. I would say that so there's some encouragement to the sixth moon of that kind of collaborative, sociological or societal meaning making activities that might get people out of that discipline and be a little less cautious. But I would also say that in the context of a metal ox year, our field of play in a wood goat moon is a lot less expansive. It's much smaller than we might assume it to be. So definitely wouldn't say get ahead of ourselves. And the less we get ahead of ourselves, and the more that we sort of take the opportunity to refine what those connections are, and like maybe even edit them slightly and learn from that experience and be like, that group of people, I really have fond memories, but maybe I don't necessarily connect with them as much as I used to. Those experiences could be pretty profound in this moon, and just kind of like coming to your core family, like actual real family, people that you really call family. Um, and in a place where, there's a lot of words like family and community being thrown around, that could prompt some pretty profound reflections for people. But the more we do that kind of work, that'd be it creates a harbor, kind of a safe harbor for the next two moons that will be very vigorous with editing. And that might be pretty uncomfortable experiences. So like really try to find your places of refuge in this sixth moon. I think would be really important, not just for the enjoyment of summer and the productivity and things you could do like that, but also creating these safe places for ourselves. And that places of reflections of who we are with these people. Who are we?
Right.
Like that's a really great experience to have that kind of communal vibe,
One of the things that I noticed, when I was down in LA, the aha kind of, it's a neophile pop kind of culture down there, and it hit me. One of the biggest gifts anyone could give any of their teachers or practitioners or anything is to allow them to be really, really, really human. And in the mindfulness work, like there's a reason why so many cults came out of LA, because it's a group of people that are yearning for something and they're willing to give up. The culture kind of goes there for this thing, and it's a self-serving thing. And then when things give us the validation that we need, this happens. And LA is what starts terms like, I'm obsessed, right? It's right. Things like that. So one of the big things and one of the big advices that I was given to people is like, I was doing some work and people were like, this is magic. And I'm like, it is now, because what is the thing you're deficient of and what is the thing that I gave you? So it's kind of like if you were in the desert and you were dehydrated, and one sip of water, if some guy just walks up and hands you a sip of water, you're going to think that water's magic right now. But once you're hydrated and you're going, it's now water, right? And so I found myself in that place a lot over my life, is you give someone something and they think it's this amazing thing. And it's taken a lot of discipline on my part to have to pull back and say, okay, thank you, but please be patient, because what we're doing will soon balance out. Like I just gave you water. So the thing I would ask people is, I would tell them the metaphor of that, and I'd say, okay, so what I just gave you was that small sip of water in a moment of your dehydration. So what was it that you were lacking? What was it that turned that boom on, and now you're thinking that it was me, but really it was just, maybe I saw you, maybe I heard you, maybe we just breathed together for a second, maybe someone finally just asked you the right question, or
you calmed down.
Yeah. Because if you blame it on someone like me, or you blame it, there are people out there that are willing to take all of your money. There are people out there that are willing to take all of your spiritual energy, and that's how so many cults were formed, and that's why there are so many in LA. So many have come out of there, and I think that's important.
Yeah. No, as Ming used to say, is like orthodoxy is fresh.
Yeah.
Right, and in a time where
with a pH,
we're obsessed with specific, with our individualized, very sensationalistically driven tangents. In the new thing and the hot this, and going back to orthodoxy, going back to a thing that's been around for 1,000 years is like, wow, that totally blows my mind. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, that's because it works. Yeah. And it's been here, and it's been working for, generations. Yeah. These are really good times to discover that. I mean, Ox year is an excellent time to discover those things. But the irony in the sixth moon is that it would be an exceptionally good time to discover them. Yeah. Because this year it would seem fresh and brand new, but it's actually been around forever.
Yeah, this last trip that I went on, showed me a wonderful place to where there is such a slot now for people to just kind of drop in, because the things that worked the most on people was just like calm. Like, I'm not gonna tell you to calm down. We're just gonna calm you down. And in the essence of inclusion, it's not walking in and being the star. It's walking in and being calm, walking in and providing sanctuary, because we have a world so much of people expressing their radical truth on a level of, it's like, I was talking to someone about social media and they're saying I should be on TikTok and, 15-second videos. And I'm like, there's your problem. Life is solved in 15-second increments. Yeah,
no way.
And and that was that.
Sorry.
That was that thing. I was like, you remember when I was doing this video series with this guy, and it was like, hey man, you only get 15 seconds, and I get to go, well, all the coolest shit in the world takes at least 16 seconds. And he just kind of looked at me and he was like,
You fell short.
Yeah, and he's like, man, do you want? He's like, yeah, but you want to make? I'm like, I don't care. I go, why would I want a bunch of people that think 15 seconds is a lifetime? Why would I even want you in my room? Why? I don't even want you looking at me if you're that. You know what I mean? I'm like, your eyes I'll break you. Like your eyes can't even see it.
Your audience.
Yeah.
If that's your audience, then there's really not anything that you can do with that. I mean, unless you did 15-second videos of just you with your eyebrows saying nothing. Yeah, exactly. Or just like, just staring.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that can be summed up in 15 seconds, but when it comes to, in the fundamentals, 1% theory, 99% practice. But if that is the culture, then when you actually do drop someone's energy back down, and they're like 17 seconds in, they're like, oh, here comes the cool, and then the cool stuff starts happening, and then you start showing up.
Yeah, and that's what it's meant by. That reminds me of Ming talked about that idea of awesome deportment. Mm-hmm. Which I know that, like, Ed, being as experienced as you are, like, it's something you resonate with. This, you can't really describe that. I mean, you can't, and God forbid you try to do that in 15 seconds. Like, it's ridiculous. Those things are just not compatible, because it requires like it's the lifetime commitment. It's the notion of devotion, of that kind of dropping into oneself, and like in martial arts or any kind of arts, artistic activity, or even communal activity, if we're talking about the sixth moon, it's like being able to see and mirror yourself and find yourself within this activity. And then just the silent commitment to that experience is a calibrating effect for everyone around you, right? And those people who are like adept at like meditation, or a teacher of some kind, is shown over and over again that their presence, then calibrates the chi of everyone in the room. But if you're, constantly driven, by this 15-second mindset, you miss it. It just goes right over your head. That's not the fault of the person with the deportment that was unable to get your attention. That's the fact that you've aligned yourself to something ridiculous, like that will never really truly feed you. And that's, from this tradition, that's a ghost. Yeah. That's just a ghost. Somebody who's interested in 15-second increments that's a ghost.
Final words of advice for people, like, they've listened, they know about the fundamentals, find some sort of community to integrate in. If you're who's going to have the best month? Is that a goat? Is there a goat's dialed in right now? I don't think we.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think we did married.
They would have, that they would be much more supported in next time. Or then again, it may come to a head for a goat how alone they feel.
Oh.
So, I mean, it could go either way.
It's time to write crappy folk songs. Everyone writes the song, I'm alone. Get goth goats. Goth goat. Yeah.
I think in general, when it comes to buried or married, you should already know who your people are, by this point. It's not about, I don't know if it's really about discovering them. I think that if the fifth moon has been working for you, you kind of know who
Who
you're in
your people? Yeah.
alignment with.
Yeah.
Yeah, who your people are. So the general advice of the sixth moon is please continue with that. And please
Yeah.
understand that like this is how things actually this is how you actually find meaning for even if you're just talking about the meaning that you make for yourself. Your language is our language is a communal language. It's a public language. Like I don't get to generate meaning for myself without the language that we share. Like that's not possible. Like I can't just generate meaning all by myself with no language. Like everything about me, like where is the line between, me and you or me and my community? Like we're constantly interconnected in that way and
Mm-hmm.
interfaced. Um, so that's one of the reflections for this moon is like, yeah, drop out of your self-centered world and understand how much of your reality, how much of the things you appreciate, not only about yourself, but about the things you enjoy in life or enjoy in the season, is directly related and even requires this person and that person, and this body of government, like I mean, let's get real. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody here is in a vacuum, no chance, So I think that there's a broader reflection in terms of like critique it or not, there's a level of support that's naturally always happening. And this is the time where we are supposed to really recognize those things. From a Confucian standpoint, these would be all kinds of ceremonies where we come to the ancestors and we make all of our offerings of the abundance of summer, to all the different worlds that support us from the spiritual order reflects the social order, reflects the natural order, and then back around again. Like, so it's a profound time. And that's why it's very difficult to necessarily convey that to the consumeristic society that's just, eating. And that's their definition of meaning is what they can
Yeah.
eat. But here's the capacity for generating meaning is like, it goes in many directions. And so the abundance that we enjoy this summer is really supposed to be celebrated, put into places of order. Like, oh, I have too much. Here, take some of mine. Like we share, we be generous. Like that's how we get by. Is understanding like, yeah, reallocation of resources can be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And sharing how we give, this particular and how we're generous, how we share, in this particular moon says everything about who we are, not just securing our future, that we make friends or something like that, but it just kind of tells us like, this is my life in this time. This is our life in this time. This is our community. We're here, gone tomorrow. Like, but in this particular instance, like we get to show our identity, with kind of a graceful elegance. And if we can do that, from the calendar standpoint, like nice job. Like you actually show what your humanity is worth in that time with these sort of intangible gestures of gracefulness and fairness and like just being nice to each other. I mean, people you don't know, or like that kind of level of generosity is really hard to describe to a consumeristic society, but it
Mm-hmm.
actually, from a Confucian standpoint, really defines what humanity is really capable of. This is the part where like heaven and earth came together back in the spring, and they said, okay, humanity, see what you can do with the abundance. This would be the point where we say, this is what we've done. Look, it can be really, really quite extraordinary and beautiful. But if we turn against all that and we turn, I'm only out for number one, like shit can go off the rails like super fast. Not just like whether our company fails or we lose everything, but like the actual state of the world. Because there's always, this is the going back to Ganying, you get what you give. That's also true of humanity's place in the world. So if we're constantly, pretty soon there's nothing left to eat and nothing to generate, like that's what we get, if we're not giving back at the same time.
Go on the site. Lots of people have signed up. Check out the posture pack. Everything boils down to mindfulness and posture. I've been around a lot of people. Most of their pain is through lack of mindfulness, and that makes that the cause and effect is your posture and the way you communicate. So I got to do my communication course at an assisted living facility at my stepmom was out there, and these 80-year-old, 90-year-old ladies were pretty upset at the people in the food place. They're chefs, and they were just mad. And I was like, hey, let's accusatory and blaming and like being angry, maybe we could talk to them about the way this make them feel and then work on contribution. And they were like, oh my God, why didn't we learn They were just saying, they're like, why didn't we learn this when we were younger? Why didn't we learn this? And brought them like right down. So that was a really fun, that was a very fun moment.
Super cool.
But, yeah. This stuff's for everyone. I'm trying to get courses for everybody. So good posture, good communication. That's where everything's at. I'm going to take a second. I'm going to breathe. Yep.
Love you, man. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Love you too.
I guess that's it.
Thank you.